Welcome back to my channel. Let's begin. Story number 1. The Trail by the River. I needed to get away. The breakup had left a hole in my chest so wide I could barely breathe, so I packed a small bag, grabbed my boots, and drove 2 hours to the trail I used to hike as a kid. The one that followed the river for miles, winding through thick woods before spilling out into the quiet little cove. I didn't tell anyone where I was going. I just wanted to be alone. The first few miles felt good. The crunch of the dirt underfoot, the smell of damp leaves, the cool breeze against my skin. The world fell away until it was just me and the sound of the river lapping against the rocks. At some point I must have veered off the main trail. The path got thinner, the woods grew denser, but I didn't care. I was chasing that numbness, that perfect silence in my head. It was maybe a mile off the main trail when I smelled it. At first, I thought it was just a dead animal. A deer, maybe. It was a sour, rotten smell, thick in the back of my throat. I gagged and covered my mouth, but something kept pulling me forward. Curiosity, dread. And then I saw it. Half buried in the sand near the riverbank was what looked like a pile of clothes. Torn, dirty, a flash of something pale underneath. Not fabric. Skin. I froze. My heart was hammering so hard I could hear it in my ears. It was a person. A woman. Her body was twisted unnaturally, one arm pinned awkwardly behind her back, the other stretched out towards the water like she had been trying to crawl away. Her hair was matted with blood and dirt, and her face, oh God, her face. The skin had gone grey and slack, lips pulled from her teeth in a silent scream. Her eyes were gone, just hollow, gaping sockets, staring up at nothing. I staggered back and almost fell. For a second I thought about running, pretending I hadn't seen it, but some part of me knew that if I left, I'd never forgive myself. So with shaking hands, I pulled out my phone and called 911. It felt like forever before help arrived. The sheriff's deputy and a paramedic were the first to show up, guns drawn, faces tight. They kept asking me the same questions over and over. Did you touch her? Did you see anyone else? How long have you been here? I told them everything, every ugly detail. Eventually more people showed up, crime scene techs, more deputies, even a coroner in a battered white van. They sealed off the area with yellow tape and started taking photos, bagging evidence, whispering to each other when they thought I couldn't hear. One of them knelt beside the body and gently brushed some of the dirt from the woman's hand. And that's when I saw it. On her wrist was a bracelet, cheap beads strung together, pink and white, spelling out a name. Jane. She couldn't have been more than 20. I felt sick. I sat down hard on the ground and stared at my hands, trying to remember if I'd seen anyone, when I wandered off the trail. But there had been no sound except the river and the wind, no footprints but mine. She had been alone when she died. When they finally let me go, the sun was settling, bleeding red into the water. I walked back to my car like a ghost, too hollow to cry. The next day her face was all over the news. Jane Carson, 21 years old, missing for 6 days. Last seen leaving a bar in town with friends. They showed a picture of her smiling, alive and full of light, so heartbreakingly different from what I found in the river. They said she'd been strangled. beaten, left like trash. They said they had no suspects. Weeks went by, then months. I kept telling myself it wasn't my fault, that I didn't kill her, I just found her. But at night, when the house is dark and quiet, I would see her face again, those empty sockets, that desperate outstretched hand. Sometimes I dreamed that I was the one lying there, half buried, reaching for help that would never come. Other times I dreamed that whoever had left her there was still out there, watching, waiting, maybe even following me home that day. They never caught him, whoever he was, whatever he was. Some things don't get endings. Some monsters never get names. All I know is that somewhere out there's a trail by the river, and under the sand there are ghosts that no one will ever find, except me. Story number 2. Apartment 3B. When I first moved into the building, it felt off. It was an old place, cracked walls, flickering lights in the hallways, pipes that groaned in the middle of the night. But rent was cheap, and I was broke, just trying to make it through college without drowning in debt. I told myself it was fine. I could live with the weirdness. But then there was the smell. It started a few days after I moved in. At first it was just a faint mustiness in the hallway, then sour, then rancid. It was strongest right outside apartment 3B, 2 doors down from mine. At first I thought maybe someone had forgotten their trash, or a pipe had burst. The manager, Mr. DeWitt, brushed me off when I complained, said it was probably something in the vents, that he'd get it eventually. I should have left it alone. I should have just have kept my head down. But then the noises started. Late night I would hear soft rhythmic banging from 3B, like something hitting the wall over and over. Thud, thud, thud. Sometimes it sounded almost wet, heavy. I knocked a few times. No answer. The building gossip, a nosy old woman from 4C, told me a man lived there. He kept to himself. Never saw him much. I figured maybe he was sick. Maybe he needed help. Or maybe, a darker voice in my head whispered, maybe he was already dead. One night, the smell got so bad it made my eyes water. I couldn't sleep, couldn't think, so I grabbed my scarf, wrapped it around my face, and went down the hallway. I knocked on the door 3B again, harder this time. Nothing. I tried the doorknob. It turned. The door creaked open about 3 inches, just enough for the stink to hit me full in the face, thick and sour and suffocating. I gagged, stumbled back. Through the crack I could see into the living room. It was dark, messy, furniture overturned, flies buzzing thick in the air, and something slumped over the couch, half covered by a filthy blanket. I don't know why I pushed the door open wider. Maybe I thought, hope, stupid hope, that it was just someone passed out drunk. It wasn't. It was a body. A man, probably in his 40s, bloated and discoloured. His skin had turned a sickly green-grey, and his mouth hung open, crawling with flies. His eyes were glassy, staring straight at me, like he knew I'd finally came. The heavy, wet thudding I'd heard. His body had been swaying, rotting. I stumbled back into the hall, heart hammering so hard I thought I'd drop dead right there. I fumbled for my phone, called 911, babbling nonsense until they calmed me down enough to get an address. The paramedics showed up first, then the cops. They made me sit on the curb while they went inside. One of them, a younger officer, threw up in the bushes when he saw what was left of the man. The medical examiner said he'd been dead for about a week. And here's the thing that still haunts me. They found locks on the inside of his door, dozens of them, big heavy padlocks bolted to the walls and the floors, and carved into the wood, right next to the main lock, was a single word: don't. When they moved his body, they found something else. Tucked under his mattress, wrapped in plastic, was a notebook. Inside, page after page of frantic scrawling. It's in the walls. It watches at night. It's in the vents. It's coming through the cracks. Don't open the door. I kept telling myself he must have been mentally ill. That's the easy answer, the rational one. But sometimes, late at night, I still hear the wet, heavy thud, the sound of something moving behind my walls. And sometimes, when I pass by what used to be 3B, now sealed off, door bolted shut, I swear I feel something watching me, waiting. It's in the walls. It's in the vents. It never left. Story number 3. The Forgotten Well. I never liked my grandparents' farm. Even as a kid, there was something about it. Something heavy in the air. Like the house itself was holding its breath. When my grandfather died, I hadn't been back in almost 10 years, but there I was, 27 years old, standing in the overgrown yard with a crowbar in my hand, ready to start helping my dad clear it out for a sale. The place was falling apart, peeling paint, broken windows, weeds tall enough to swallow you whole. We worked all morning, hauling junk, breaking down old furniture, ripping up mouldy carpet. By noon, I needed a break. I wandered out to the backyard. The air was thick and still. The only sound was the buzz of cicadas. That's when I saw it, half hidden by tall grass and tangled vines. A circle of crumbling stones, a forgotten well. I didn't remember it being there, and yet somehow it felt familiar. The boards covering it were warped and splintered, nailed down by a crude X. Something about the way it bowed inward made my skin crawl. I should have walked away, but something pulled at me, a voice soft and insistent at the back of my mind. Open it. I pried at the boards with a crowbar, grimacing as the nails screamed free. The wood snapped and gave way. The smell hit me immediately, a sweet, foul stench that coated my tongue. I dropped the crowbar and stepped back, heart pounding. Inside the well, nestled against the slick, mossy stones, was something pale, something that had once been human. A child. A small skeleton half-clothed in tattered rags, hair still clinging to the skull in thin, ghostly wisps. My knees buckled. I stumbled back, bile rising in my throat. I must have screamed because my dad came running. When he saw what was in the well, his face went white. Not shocked, not horrified, terrified. I have never seen my father look like that before. He grabbed my arm, hard enough to hurt, and pulled me away. "We're leaving," he said, his voice was shaking. "Right now." "But we have to call someone." "Now!" We left the farm that day. Never went back. Later that night, after hours of silence, after enough whiskey that I could barely think straight, my dad finally spoke. He told me about a boy no one ever talked about, a boy who went missing in 1978, a boy named Matthew. He lived next door, just across the fields, he and my uncle, my dad's younger brother. Used to play together when we were little. One summer evening Matthew wandered onto the farm and he never came home. There was a search, of course. Dogs, police, helicopters. But nothing was ever found. Nothing until now. My father was 12 years old when it happened. Old enough to remember. Old enough to be afraid. He told me that the night Matthew disappeared, he woke up to the sound of whispering. He crept downstairs and saw my grandfather, stern, cruel old man that he was, standing by the back door, holding a shovel. My uncle stood beside him, crying, and between them, something small and still, wrapped in a blanket. My dad swore he didn't see what happened next, but he heard the boards being hammered down. He heard the dirt being shovelled back into place, and he heard the whispering stop. My grandfather had a simple rule. We don't talk about that night. We don't talk about the well. And they never did. My father said he spent his whole life trying to convince himself that it hadn't been real, that it was a dream, a nightmare, a trick of the frightened boy's mind, until I tore up the boards, until I proved that the past wasn't dead after all. We called the sheriff the next morning. There was an investigation, but no one was left alive to charge. My grandfather had taken whatever secrets he had to the grave. My uncle was long gone too. A car crash 10 years ago. The remains were confirmed. Matthew Carter, missing for 46 years. The story made the local news for about a week, but no one ever really wanted to talk about it. Some things are easy to bury, easier to pretend like they never happened. As for me, I couldn't go back to the farm. I didn't even go to the auction when the family finally sold it. Sometimes I dream about it though. The fields overgrown and wild, the wind howling through the empty house, the stones of the well crumbling one by one, until nothing is left but a black, gaping hole in the earth, and somewhere, deep in the dark, the whispering starts again. That's all for this evening. Sweet dreams.